order, please. If you all will stand and follow me with the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation by Eldon Long.
Bow for prayer. Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Unless the Lord guards the city, the watchmen of that city watch in vain. Lord God, we thank you for this city. We thank you that your hand of blessing is upon it. We thank you for the favor that you've shown us. We thank you for every official and every employee of the city. We pray, God, that you continue to protect them, guide them, direct them, bless their homes. God, we thank you that we have the privilege of coming to you and asking for insight and discernment on the matters of the city. I pray that you give the council and each one tonight the wisdom to make the proper decisions on each item of business. We give you the glory and give you the honor. In Jesus' name, amen.
Roll call, please.
Kamala Lamons. Here. Jerry Foley.
Here.
Eric Shine.
Here.
Darren Brock.
Here.
Keith Williams.
Here.
Carol Harmon.
Here.
Marty Latham.
Here.
Paula Allred.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which contains the Lowell City Council minutes, regular meeting, August 7, 2007, and financial statement for July 2007. Any comments? I'll entertain a motion, please.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jerry Foley.
Yes.
Marty Latham.
Yes.
Paula Allred. Eric Shine.
Yes.
Darren Brock.
Yes.
Kamala Lamons.
Yes.
Keith Williams.
Yes.
Carol Harmon.
Yes.
As part of the public forum, I'm sure you all are wondering what Kamala Lamons is doing with some beautiful red roses. Today is her anniversary, and her husband sent them up to him. Mr. Guy Shoemaker.
Guy Shoemaker, 315 Center Drive, Lowell. I've been talking with Kerm Radio because it seems like our sewer people aren't working with the people over that area. And Mr. Mayor, I think somebody ought to go and tell those people that their sewer problem is their problem. Not mine, not yours, not the city of Lowell's. And I think Camille, who's supposed to be chairman of that committee, should go see those people and tell them, go get your septic tanks pumped. Number 2, 10 o'clock tomorrow. If I get out of dentist's office in time, I'm going to be on Kerm Radio. I talked to the colonel about our city office building. And I told him that I agreed to match $100 of every member of the city council. And we got some people who refused to part with $100 of their annual $3,000 stipend. And I told him that I would call him back this month and let him know who they are. And I told him they're Camille Lamons, Keith Williams, and Darren Brock. And they all flat refused. Now, if these people who are on this city council have no interest in our city hall, in the city hall, they should resign from the city council. And let's get somebody in there who wants the city hall, who will work to get a city hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Guy.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor, has there been a plan that's gone public on the City Hall yet?
Not yet.
Okay, just want to check.
Adam Shattuck Adams, Arkansas Department of Health.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and the City Council. My name is Shadrack Adams. I'm from the Arkansas Department of Health, especially the Benton County Health Unit here locally. I know that there's been quite a bit of discussion lately about the septic and sewer problems that are plaguing Sabre Heights. And in that vein, and after having talked with my supervisors, I thought that I would take the opportunity to give you the state's viewpoint on the situation. Because of the number of septic complaints that we've had from that subdivision, which has about 84 lots, we decided earlier this year to actually conduct a door-to-door survey to see how many of those folks have existing septic problems or have had problems in the past. And as you can imagine, that's a bit of a tricky thing to pull off when the health department comes to your door. Not many people want to be real upfront about what's happening. But in any event, out of the 30 respondents we had out of 84, 11 of them have had or do have septic problems existing. It's almost a third. Additionally, some of those who did respond mentioned that others do have existing problems. Now, you can take that for what it's worth. The view of the state is that at this rate of failure, with a subdivision as young as this one is, 16 years old for Block 1, and about 14 years old for Block 2 and 3, this is becoming a dire situation. And I'm afraid while we could fix individual problems in some cases, while we can postpone trouble in other cases, in still other cases, there are instances where we can't really do anything. And I'm afraid that this problem is only going to get worse as time goes on. So the health department would like to express that it's our firm belief that this is a subdivision that needs some sort of decentralized or public sewerage system there. But beyond all that, I just wanted to, as a member of the health department, answer any technical questions. I don't know if this is the forum for that, but any questions you might have about the work that we've done there, the history of the health department, in its relation to Sabre Heights, that is, and anything else that you'd be interested in knowing.
I have a question. Have you talked to Rogers Sewer about this? This is in Rogers Sewer District. Lowell has no sewer district. This is in Rogers. Have you talked to Rogers about it?
Not directly, because as I understood, the subdivision itself was within the city limits of
It is within the city limits, but we don't have a sewer system.
Okay.
And that's why I was wondering, have you talked to Rogers?
I've heard from them indirectly some rough estimates of what the cost for that would be. My understanding there is that they would be willing to allow such a tap, but the question is, who's going to foot that bill? True. And I know that's on the minds of everyone here, and certainly the citizens of Sabre Heights, too.
We get no revenue from the sewer.
Certainly. I can appreciate that.
So it's a real problem, particularly when we have no sewer service to collect revenues from. And I wondered if you had handled this with Rogers or what they have to say about it and the residents.
I think with regard to the issue of what the residents, first of all, what the residents have had to say about it, our survey didn't involve what they would have in mind in order to fix the problem. As far as the health department's concerned, that's more of a political issue about who's responsible for what. Our issue is a public health matter. And when we have the high percentage of failures that we're having there, it's the opinion of the health department that something needs to be done.
When was your survey done?
It was done in June of this year.
Tom.
Cedric, hi.
Hi.
Can you tell us about a typical pathway to health department action, if there is such a thing, that can be taken on a certain territory, or house by house, or a certain region? What is there? I'm not familiar with what could happen, and could you describe that for us, please?
Well, as far as the rules and regulations are written, the law would be such as an individual case-by-case basis. So it could eventually be that a person would end up, I suppose, you being an attorney, you would know this better than I, but with perpetual fines if it got to that point, and to the point where they'd actually have to abandon their house.
John?
I have mapped that. I would like the city to understand that because of the sensitive nature of this survey, assurances were given when this survey was taken that the Arkansas Department of Health would not take individual action based on any of their answers on this particular survey. Now, that doesn't preclude them from coming into trouble later on. It was very important that we convey to those folks that this was not going to be an issue of retaliation for them giving us honest answers. And sure, I have a map here that I'd be happy to turn over to the city if they like. It does have lot numbers, and again, I would caution you against.
Are you saying we can't use it?
No. I'm saying you could have it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I just want. It's very important that there be an understanding that those particular folks understand that we aren't on a headhunt in order to target individuals within the community. That's all. Because the health department as a whole sees this as a subdivision problem, not as isolated incidents.
Mr.
See
Adams,
your map, please.
Mr. Adams, do you see this to be a problem in a concentrated area of that subdivision, 1, 2, and 3 blocks?
Yes, as a matter of fact, quite frankly, that whole area between Concord and Sabre Heights subdivision is notorious for poor soils and for failures about this lifespan through the systems.
What about the folks on Concord?
There are failures on Concord, that's correct too. Yes, ma'am. Fortunately, those have a little more land to work with. They've been able to stall, if you will, a little longer, but they're having the same problems.
Okay. Another question. In block 1, 2, or 3, where is the most concentration of problem?
There would be blocks 2 and 3, evenly divided. There are failures. There have been failures in block 1, but the back half of the subdivision is where the failures are most concentrated.
What block is that?
2 and 3. 2 and 3, ma'am.
The one that runs up against that.
Yes, it's divided kind of north and south. The development took place the first, I forget how many lots there were. I think 31 in the first block, and that's more or less the top half of both Tudor and Lancelot. And then the development took place all the way down, with one side being block 3 and one side being block 2. On the map that Mayor Long has there, those blocks are actually written out. That's the the map that we have on file.
And those would be the 14-year-old homes.
Yes, that's correct.
I noticed on this map there's only 2 areas in the entire subdivision where there are 2 houses side by side. The rest of them are scattered throughout the subdivision.
Yes, that's correct. According to the respondents we got. Again, our survey was only good for about 50% of the subdivision, or less, actually. But yes, that's
what
correct.
did the other 50% have to say?
Nothing. They would not respond to the survey.
Did any of them say why?
Most of them would not answer the door, refused to call back after a letter was left explaining what we were doing and my business card. And that was the 50% or greater. The other, actually I say 50%, but the other 50 houses that didn't answer.
Billy?
Hensley, Code Compliance Official for the City of Lowell. I've got several calls on this survey that they did, and a lot of people was wondering if they were going to get citations if they filled them out and said that they'd have problems with their septic system. So a lot of them didn't fill them out because they're concerned about getting citations.
Thank you, Billy.
I have a question.
Any other question? Kamala?
Is there a way we can get a copy of the survey that you sent?
Sure, I've got that with me. As a matter of fact, I probably have, well, I don't. I'm sorry, I have only 2 blanks. But I'd be happy to do that. I'm afraid that's not going to mean much to you, but the questions simply were, have you had or do you have any evidence of septic failure at this time? It was a very simple, open-ended question.
Is there any way we can get a complete copy of this survey? Everything?
Yeah, and a copy of the map.
Sure, absolutely.
Everything. Every resident, their comments, all of it?
Yes,
Okay.
that's all available under Freedom of Information, so yes.
Would you send that to me, please?
Certainly can. Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Does the state have a way to solve this problem, whether it be with Lowell, whether it be with Rogers, or with the individual residents?
If we were looking at this on a simply as a case-by-case basis, there are some options for fixing, say, an individual house, but not always. Currently, there is a house in Cave Springs that is unoccupied because it does not have a septic system. It was built about $300,000 house that's been sitting there for 3 years with no residents in it. So it does happen. As far as a plan for the entire subdivision, that's why I'm here appealing to you, because the density of that subdivision, the fact that many of those folks who have alternate areas or secondary places to put absorption fields have taken that up with swimming pools and garages, which is a natural thing to do. It's a bit understandable, but now those folks are going to be stuck. And of those that have already had a failure, using their secondary area, and if that fails as quickly as their first did, they're stuck too. They're out.
Did you find an answer as to why they were failing?
That's something that we've been working on for quite a while. We went back and reviewed the subdivision approval letters that were submitted by sanitarians long before me. At the time, this subdivision met all the soil requirements, all of our engineering requirements to be approved. But I can tell you now that technology has come so far in 14 years that we would be hesitant to approve a subdivision with lots that small nowadays.
Well, whether the size of the lot has anything to do with it, but the soil type, even 14, 16 years ago, I don't see how a perk test could have been passed then for the type of soil that it is, because it's a soil that does not drain.
Do you have the perk test for that area?
Yes, I do. I do, and I have that with me. I'd be happy to supply that to the City Council.
I'd like that too.
Great.
I've lived around here 28 years, and I drove by that land many, many times before it was ever built, and water was standing on it. And when they started building on it, I couldn't believe it.
Well, I've lived here all of my life, and that has always been a swamp area, and it does not drain, period, because of the type of soil that's there. It's a clay-type, sticky gumbo soil.
Referring back to your first question about whether or not the soil perked. The way a soil perk test is conducted, it is quite possible to achieve the numbers they have. We had some fairly decent perk times, as again, I'd be happy to let the City Council have a copy of this. When it's all very much seasonal. For instance, now we've been through a rather dry period, and you can get just about anything to perk now, even if it is nearly
swamp.
The technology we use now uses a technique called soil morphology. In other words, we look at the color of the soil to determine how much water, after some tests have been done, how much water that particular area can hold. And again, nowadays, we would say that that subdivision probably was not suitable for the size lots that were placed there.
Don, do you have some comments?
Building official for the city. In 1994, I went to work as a building inspector for the city. This land had perk tests done on it, and then the developer came in and stripped 2 to 3 foot of what little topsoil there was off of it. I called into question the perk test results at the time, and I couldn't get anybody to listen to me.
Thank you, Don.
John, is there any record of that? Was there any record of that?
Well, that explains a lot.
Any other comments or questions?
Is there any kind of grant money from the state available to repair a problem like that or to assist with that?
Certainly not from the state that I'm aware of. Yeah, I'm sorry to say. Again, I thank the City Council. You're certainly welcome to anything that's a public record at the Health Department. Feel free to give me a call. I'd like to leave my business cards for everyone there too, okay? Now, is that fine?
Thank you, Cedric. Candace Higginbotham.
Council. Many of you guys know who I am and why I'm here, and it's regarding Sabre Heights. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Candace Higginbottom. My husband and I purchased a home in Sabre Heights, November of '06, to find out very quickly that we had a severe drainage and septic problem. We've had the best of the best from city, county. They've all been in my house. They've all been in my yard. We've all picked through the dirt together. Basically, to come to the bottom line that we could try this, we could try that. The only solution for my yard personally is to hook to sewer. We have since then found out that several of our neighbors, obviously not all of them, have had or do have similar problems that we have. I'm really nervous, so I'm sorry. They also have spent thousands and thousands of dollars already in the past 14 to 16 years and many, many man-hours, brother-in-laws and shovels, trying to fix what they have. And those are things that are not documented on record. There's been a lot of DRs out, and those cases are documented on record. For the people who gather their family and shovels, these have been altered, and people have done what they've had to do to get by. What we know is that, I believe without doubt, based on documentation that I have, is that the septic systems should have never been installed, based strictly on the soil, which I think we can go many directions with that to back that up. I'm basically using the Benton County Soil Survey, which was established in 1977, that is public record, that states that it's going to fail because it's not the right. And I have all that. I didn't bring it with me that tells, the water tables. As far as the perk test, I know mine personally was done on August 19th. And here we are, August 21st. So that's why mine perked, because it was dry. Whether it was before or after topsoil, I don't even know. But there's a lot of other documentations as far as failures and whatever that are on record, and I think with a little digging can be proven very easily. I also know from talking to my neighbors that Sabre Height has been an issue at every election, and it has been brought up to every person who's came knocking on a Sabre Heights door, and there's been a lot of promises over the past 10 to 16 years, and nothing's been done. We've got a community of wonderful people in Sabre Heights. I mean, It's not big $300,000 houses on 3-acre lots. It's small houses on half-acre lots with families who all work, the majority inside of Lowell or close to it. Our kids go to the schools. You know, it's probably one of the most family or community kind of feeling subdivisions that I've ever lived in, and I've lived in some really great subdivisions. But I guess for me, we know that the city of Rogers has designed a sewer plan, and I think y'all or the sewer committee or whoever has that on record. We know there's a price that goes along with it, and I do appreciate the fact, to whomever the credit goes, that we did make the 5-year plan. That at least told me that you're aware that there is a problem there, because there is, but I don't think 5 years is soon enough. I think that's way too long for this ongoing problem. I think it needs to be dealt with sooner. Facts are we're surrounded by sewer, with the exception of boring through a few very small streets on a couple of sides. We're surrounded. I think the big question, the big one is who's going to pay for it, and that's all really it comes down to, because nobody wants to foot the bill. I understand that Lowell is not going to generate revenue. We are existing taxpayers, and based on, you can probably research, a lot of the people in that subdivision have been there as first-time homeowners. They have paid taxes. They have dug in their own sewer, septic, waste. They've done what they've had to do, and I think it's just time. The sewer is here. It's always a matter of money. So I think that it's frustrating when we drive by our school and we drive by big empty subdivisions that have sewer. They don't have homes and they're in bankruptcy, and we're still paying taxes and trying to dig to do what we can to get our toilets to flush properly. So I guess I want to clarify a few things. I've got notes, and again, I'm really sorry. This is just, the pumping the tanks is not the issue. Trust me, that has nothing to do with it. It is much bigger than that. It is soil. It is that they weren't properly put in, or they weren't properly approved, or whatever. But it has nothing to do with just pure maintenance, because that's not even close to the situation. What I do know is I personally conducted a survey. We know that now the county's conducted a survey. I just received a survey questionnaire in the mail last week. Some of my neighbors did, some of my neighbors did not. How many surveys do we need to, we know the problem. Everyone who's been around knows this problem. I think all we need to decide is what we are going to do to fix it and figure out how it's going to be paid for and how soon we can start. And I know that a big question surrounding my neighbors is, do we need to annex into Rogers? I can tell you that's not personally what we want to do, and I speak on behalf of my neighbors because we enjoy being part of the Lowell community. But if that's what's going to take to fix it, we're willing to do whatever needs to be done. And thank you. And you have questions?
Could you give your name for the record?
I'm
sorry, your address for the record.
It's 1417 Lancelot. Does that mean I'm going to get condemned tomorrow? And it's true. Nobody wants to say, and I can tell you too, previously, 10 plus years ago, people who did speak up and say they had a problem, they were cited by the county, and I'm sure that that's documented, and threatened with fines and everything else. And nobody wants to say, I have a failing septic in my backyard, but we do.
Thank you, Candace.
Wait a minute, I have a question. How many people did you survey?
Mayor Long has the copies. There was approximately 10. And I went door to door, and they were, actually most of the surveys were people I had never spoken to before. And they were all long-term residents of the subdivision.
And what was the result?
They have failed, or they are failing, and they want sewer, but what's the cost?
Okay, how many of those people that you've talked to in your neighborhood, the 3 blocks, how much are they willing to spend to help you? Okay.
Yeah, we haven't discussed numbers because I don't have a figure to give them. I can do hearsay numbers, but it's not factual.
Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Mark? My husband. Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Please speak into the mic. Thank you.
Marvelous Marv Higginbottom. We've owned 3 houses in the subdivision, still have 2 in the subdivision, and the other 2 we had absolutely no problem with. So if you would have came to me and said, hey, I want to buy sewer, we wouldn't have had. So there are people who have had no trouble in there.
Thank you.
One more more thing to that is the house that we currently live in, I've done a lot of research. I have quite a bit of documentation at home, but we also found out that, and for those of you who are from Lowell and know that area, there was a very big pond, and my yard was in the middle of it. So that's in part, too. I mean, we may be worst case scenario, but we know we're not alone as far as needing.
Candace, do you have space on your lot for another field?
No, sir, I do not. We have an in-ground pool, and we have a 4-car garage. It's approximately 1,200 square feet, and that is technically our alternate area, and a question, since yes, is that I would assume the city issued the building permit, which then took up our alternate area. If the building was not there, we would then be putting new lines in currently, which several of our neighbors have already done.
Did that help?
For now, until it fails again, because it's just a matter of space and time. They've taken up the space. It's just time before it will fail. Based on the documentation of the soil was declared unsuitable for septic systems, and that's the 1977 Benton County survey, soil survey that anyone can access.
Next door to Candace. I also have problems, as you can probably
Could you give us your name and
My name is Janine Tavenlar. I live at 1413 Lancelot Street. I wanted to address the problem of cost. We all have considered cost. You know, I tell you, we've been living there 6 years. I don't have any extra money to do anything, but the one thing I've been trying to do is save, so when we do have sewer, I would be willing to put some of my cost into the sewer instead of digging up my yard for the 5th time. You know, I can't do that again. I can't pump. I've had my lines, you know, scoured through and everything, and I still have sewage in my yard also.
And you've lived there how long?
6 years.
And you've done this once a year?
I haven't done it once a year, but I've had, you know, we've totally pumped, and then they had to come back, and they actually had to dig out our D-box and do the whole, what they call it, where they actually went through all the lines and had to redo all the lines. I know the people that owned the house before us had some, because they had told us, I don't know exactly what they did, but they also had to redo some of the yard. You know, I just can't afford to do that, so I've just been trying to hold out, hoping and praying that we could get
In the
sewage.
6 years, how many times have you had to have it cleaned out?
I've had it pumped once, but, I mean, it's time to do it again. But I think when they actually cleaned out the lines, that they actually broke some. You know, I hate to say this too, because I don't want to get cited either for the same thing. You know, I'm just like everybody else. I don't want to get cited for having sewage in my yard, but I can't afford to, you know, continue to do that. You know, because I had it pumped, and then the next year I had it scoured, so I guess twice. Because then he had to pump it a second time. So I guess that was twice, because I pumped it one year, and the next year they had to pump it again, and they had to completely do the lines. And I know the people before me who had only been there 5 years had already done it also. Because I understand you're supposed to do it every 5 years, but, you know, in how many years that house has been there. But there is a problem. You know.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, ladies.
I'm going to say one more thing. I just keep thinking, on the pumping, when we first moved in and realized immediately we had a problem, we had him come pump ours, and the guy laughed because as he pumped it, water continued to just flow. And he said, I can come back tomorrow and this will be full again, because the ground is designed, the soil is designed to hold water. And that is exactly what it's doing. So it's not allowing septics to work properly because it's holding the water. And that's what they said. You could pump it, you know, weekly, and it's going to be full during, obviously, the wet seasons. Right now we're dry. I can actually point to my lateral lines for the first time since November.
Thank you. John?
John Ratsky, I'm a member of the Utility Committee. I just want, for the record, that it doesn't go down. For 14 years we've avoided this problem. Sewer lines have only been available on the east side and on the south side of this area within the last year or so. So just to make the record straight, that potential solution to this problem has just been available within the past year. Okay.
Thank you, John. Mark Rockwell.
My name is Mark Rockwell. I live at 1416 Lancelot. We just moved there this last November. I have two kids and one on the way. Me and my wife do. And I appreciate that, John. I've never met John from the utilities, but I appreciate him saying that sewer really wasn't available on all, how many sides of our area? 3, 4 sides? We have, so there's sewer on 2 sides of our subdivision? I understood 3.
2 in Lowell.
2, what, sir?
1 across the street in Rogers.
So we have sewer on Pleasant Grove. There's a sewer line there, access there. And where else?
71B in south.
My understanding was it was also on the
Concord?
Yes.
I can't tell you. Don, do you know if there's a sewer line on Concord?
So that'd be 3 sides, wouldn't it?
Yeah. That's where the duplexes are.
Okay, so that would be
east.
That'd be 3 sides then, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm here to get informed also. Like I said, I'm new to Lowell, but I've been here for 9 years, lived in Rogers. I have a degree in horticulture, and this is kind of in my field as far as soils are concerned. Agronomy was something that I kind of expertise in. As a matter of fact, people hire me for consulting on their soils quite often. And I've done my own. If anybody needs any more education as far as what type of soil this is, I've done research with USDA since I've moved there. I can tell you the soil type and anything that you want to know about it. I'd be more than happy to give you out my phone number. But in brevity, it's Captina silt loam. 58% of our soil is Captina silt loam. Anybody in my industry will tell you that that is not sufficient for any septic or percolation or any type drainage whatsoever. It's great. It's great for making the lake. It holds water tremendously. 9.6% is pea-ridge silt loam. That's one survey. Oh, excuse me, I said wrong. Pardon me. The Captina is 84.6. The pea-ridge silt loam is 14%. I'd be more than happy to provide all the documentation for anybody that wants to see. Was the city of Lowell, I did research on previous meetings too, and I want to make sure that I have all my facts straight. Did y'all receive, wasn't there like a loan that the state of Arkansas provided? 2.75%. There's $2 million revolving loan fund from the state of Arkansas at 2.75%. This will be brought to the city council for approval later if it's decided to pursue that. What is your decision, or where are we at on that?
We decided not to pursue it.
And what was the reason?
Loans have to be paid back.
Okay.
We were.
Well, I understand
there
that.
was no position at the time to accept that, not knowing for sure how we were going to pay it back.
You're talking about on April 17, 2007?
That's right.
I heard your comments earlier that sewer does not generate revenue. I mean, look, I don't have a sewer problem, okay? Candace came to me when we first moved in, told me about her problem. I blew it off, okay? And you know what hit me hard, Mr. Long, Mayor Long? Is when my son Solomon was eaten up with mosquitoes this past spring. His backside and Samuel's backside were eaten up and they looked like raw hamburger. We have flies like you would not believe. I'm embarrassed to bring this, but I brought the one that stunk the least. This is full of flies, thousands of them, and maggots. My house smells like this. The flies that land on Candace's and the other 11 people in our neighborhood land on my son's hot dog. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here. You know, we just said one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sir, we're a community. We're not individuals. I cannot believe that it is the city's stance to only provide public services that generate revenue. I was taken back by that statement. I guess
The reason I made that statement, the city has no way to pay for it. You pay all the sewer and water lines in Lowell, except to 12 people, have been paid by the property owners.
I understand. If a few people in a city, how many people are in the city? How many homes?
6,500. I don't know how many homes, but about 6,500.
6,500. We can easily say that there's 200 people in Sabre Heights. That's a good proportion. And we're a community. City of Lowell is a community. And we just can't say that Sabre Heights has a problem. See, because the flies that land on the sewage, open sewage in these people's homes, might land on your son's hot dog. And I understand if you can't afford it. And I read your survey. There were two questions. Do you have a problem with sewage now? And I received it this last Saturday. And I'm assuming that's a survey that y'all said that you'd send in the spring. I saw in the meeting that you would send out a survey. Okay.
Do you have a copy of that?
Yeah. Yes, it's in recorded saying that other projects that do not have funding identified for this time are Christie Creek's sewer and Sabre Heights sewer problems. And it says it was decided, and this is the date of this is April 17th. It was decided that a questionnaire be sent to those neighbors to find out for sure how many people actually have problems before any extensive work is done.
There wasn't a survey, to my knowledge.
I don't think it's been done.
I received a survey in the mail. Saturday. Did it have two questions on it?
Yes.
Was that from you?
No.
Who was that from?
You know what survey I did. It's me again. There was a survey we did, I don't know when. Was it May, maybe?
I don't remember, Candace.
But it was at a utilities meeting. It was decided that we would survey. I volunteered to do it to help the city in any way that I could, were my exact words, that I would do whatever I could to help the situation. Mayor Long and I agreed I would conduct a survey. It was more than two questions, but it was still pretty basic. And it was, everyone gave names and addresses. I gave copies of it to you. That's one survey. Health Department has conducted another survey. That's two. And then we received in the mail last week a third survey that was addressed City of Lowell and was to be replied within 5 days.
That's what I did.
And that's what we did.
You guys didn't say
Sean, do you know anything about this?
Yeah. I didn't bring it with me because I knew that you would know.
It's under my understanding that Tony had requested this to be mailed out. There's no documentation of the previous surveys. They're in a deal file. We have nothing to go on. This one was mailed out Thursday, I believe.
Thursday? Okay.
What's a deal file, Sean?
You can't find them.
That's what we get every day. Somebody comes through the door and said, I had a deal with so-and-so. But we can't find any files to substantiate the deals.
Okay, well, there was a survey. I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I didn't bring it because I took for granted that the city council sent it because on April 17th you said you were going to send out a survey.
I'm truly sorry for that misconstrued information, but would you please provide a copy of that? Or Sean, do you have a copy of that? You can provide it to the mayor and provide it to the utilities committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
We'll
Carol.
take care. We'll see what we can do to take care of that.
Okay. Well, let me just tell you what the survey says because I have a pretty good memory.
I appreciate that. Thank
Okay.
you.
The first question on the survey was, do you have a sewer problem? Okay. The second question was, will you be willing to pay for the hookup to this city line? Folks, I was kind of insulted by that because that's kind of like me coming up to you and saying, Mr. Long, would you like to buy a Mercedes-Benz? You know? There was no cost, no thought behind it. And I walked over to Kansas' house and I said, isn't this just to appease you? I was dumbfounded. And what it said to me was, it's not really being taken seriously. And Shadrach, you can add me to your list. Now it's 12 out of 84. Because my children were walking through sewage in our backyard. Okay? It's shameful when you have to wash the feet off of your kids. Now, I did talk to Billy Hensley today, who's a very nice and generous man, but I would like it for the record, because I did go through, since I'm new to the community, I did talk to my neighbors, and they've been cited before, and they're intimidated to come forward. Billy, are you going to cite people for coming forward? Thank you, Billy. He said no. That is hugely important to the people I live with. Okay? So I guess that's a general consensus that nobody be cited or prosecuted by the city.
You might want to exact that promise out of the Department of Health also.
Okay.
Because
Shad-
Billy is a city and...
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we got a no from Billy. How about you, Shad? Are you going to prosecute any of my neighbors from Sabre Heights that come forward with the sewer problem? Well, yeah. Yeah, and I appreciate that, and he means that too. I've talked to him several times since I've been there. And yeah, I mean, on the national, I understand you not having the funds. Let's go back to that for a second. But when I read that survey that was sent out by Troy, Tony. It got me thinking. And Candace is right. We pay taxes. My Lord, I own the business, you know. And that first thing that came to my mind was, sure, I'll pay for it. If you disclude me from having to pay any sales tax or any property tax, heck yeah. I mean, my Lord, that's treating us like individuals when I see it like a community. Are y'all getting, am I making sense? And I just think it's totally unfair to pinpoint anybody that has bought a house in the most asinine soil for septic system. I mean, it does, I got a college degree, but it doesn't take someone with a college degree to figure this one out. And so we have a problem in our community. And I don't think that we ought to just tag Candace for her problem. I think that's totally unfair.
We're running out of time.
That's fine. Well, I've told you about the flies that we have and the mosquitoes. And I guess I'll see you next week.
Okay,
I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Billy?
I'd just like to get something straight. I took over code enforcement in 2001, and since that time I have never cited anybody in Sabre Heights for, any sewer problems of any kind.
Thank you, Billy.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say that I was unaware that there's a survey at all that left the city and went to the citizens. I don't think anyone on this council knew there was a survey that went out. I know I was not.
You're absolutely right, Keith. And Camel and I are both chairmen of that committee, and we didn't know anything about it until tonight.
So,
I'll bring you up to speed that this is to compile information to bring to the committee, that therefore there can be work done to bring to the council, and we had no information in the previous survey from April 17th mailing that we could go back and look for. It was basically the same questions, whether you were involved in the utilities committee at that time or not.
I was.
Okay. It went out. We got several back, much like theirs, 30 people out of 84. They are not at City Hall. I don't believe you all have them. So in an effort to do this and help these people as far as we can at this point, this one was mailed out. Doesn't point fingers or suggest anything other than the two questions.
Just so we all are on the same page, though.
Thank you, Sean. Any other comments? Next item on the agenda is committee reports, parks, recreation, and special events. Keith, do you have anything to report?
I don't think we've met in the last 2 weeks.
Streets and sidewalks. Streets and sidewalks. Utilities committee. Ordinance committee.
I'm going to defer to Marty on that one. I was out of town.
We did not have enough people come to the meeting to meet, so we didn't have a meeting.
We probably need to set a new meeting time later on.
I think we need to look at how we handle the ordinance committee in the first place. We probably need to readdress that. I'm not real certain that what we have been doing has been real effective. I don't know when the time would be right to talk about that, but
Okay, we can handle that later. No meeting of the personnel committee or the finance committee. Old business, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an IP-enabled service agreement with AT&T.
Kathy Foraker with AT&T. Hi, Tom. I don't know if you want to address it at this point, the written agreement, or?
Sure. I think y'all know this. There's a written agreement which will, the idea of it is to recoup, to capture, to keep from losing franchise fees that you might lose if you lose cable television viewers who might choose to receive video by way of this technology. I'll call it a new technology. So while AT&T has a franchise agreement with the city already to deliver telephone, they don't have one to deliver video. Would they be regulated as a federally regulated cable company, or would they be regulated as some other kind of utility? We don't know. We could litigate that with AT&T. They would probably not want to do that, nor would we want to litigate it. This agreement is a way to avoid the uncertainties as to how that litigation might come out, because we don't know what kind of animal this is. The federal government's not quite sure yet, I don't think. The state certainly isn't certain as to what this new technology would be called. So you strike this agreement with the provider, and that way, as people choose to change from perhaps cable provider to this, you don't lose that 4%, which is a good thing, because you rely on that franchise fees to some extent.
Any questions?
Is there any way that the cable company can come back and sue the city for having competition from AT&T for this product?
Quite the opposite. The city is not allowed to grant exclusive franchises.
Right.
So what a franchise really is, it's rental. You're paying the public, you're forcing someone who occupies the public's property to pay the public for using the property. Back in the old days, those deals used to get struck one by one. The franchising idea, as it came along, is a way to get that streamlined, regulated. So it's the same for everybody, and everybody can be treated the same. That's what would have to happen. There's a cable company, an incumbent cable company, couldn't stop. Well, I shouldn't say they couldn't. They certainly have tried to stop AT&T from serving video. All that's happened up in Washington, D.C., or probably other big cities. But the FCC regulates all of that, and the FCC has determined that AT&T can do this. They haven't exactly, I don't think, told us what it is and how it's regulated. So they've left that up to the states, and the states aren't going to do it because they don't franchise AT&T, so they left it up to the local governments. You'll see the city of Chicago litigate with AT&T over this, or the city of, the Twin Cities in Minnesota are very progressive with regard to video, but most cities can't do that. And so this idea of really just switching from one to the other and keeping your franchise fee is a very advantageous idea. Could the fee be higher if it were cable? Yes, you could demand a 5% franchise or negotiate that. Your incumbent cable company doesn't give 5% right now. So what you're doing by the 4% really is being more fair to the citizens who choose to receive their video this way. It's also more fair to the company. All due respect, that's not really your concern. They'll take care of themselves. AT&T will. I promise you. They've got great lawyers and great people who watch out for them, but you're watching out for your citizens, so you're keeping that even, which makes a lot of sense. Does that answer the question, Carol?
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Darren?
I'd like to move that we place this on third and final read by title only. Suspend the rules.
Roll call, please.
Darren Brock,
Yes.
Paula Allred,
Yes.
Eric Shine,
Yes.
Carol Harmon,
Yes.
Jerry Foley,
Yes.
Marty Latham,
Yes.
Keith Williams,
Yes.
Kamala Lamons.
Yes.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute an IP enablement service agreement with AT&T.
So move.
Roll call, please.
Keith Williams.
Yes.
Marty Latham.
Yes.
Paula Allred.
Yes.
Carol Harmon.
Yes.
Kamala Lamons.
Yes.
Darren Brock.
Yes.
Jerry Foley.
Yes.
Eric Shine.
Yes.
This will be ordinance number 801.
New business.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we take a break.
Okay. We'll take about 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Are you going to go to Kelly's thing Saturday?
We're in this bankruptcy. You know? Oh, my goodness.
Next item on the agenda is approval to destroy records by shredding, excuse me. Mary?
Are you going to do some shedding?
That's shredding.
I wrote shredding. Since we're running out of room in our little storage closet, I went back through the retention law, and we were able to get rid of these items. So if you would approve this, I'd appreciate it, and then we need a member of City Council appointed to sign this with us.
I move to do the shredding.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Carol Harmon.
Yes.
Paula Allred.
Yes.
Jerry Foley.
Yes.
Eric Shine.
Yes.
Kamala Lamons.
Yes.
Keith Williams.
Yes.
Marty Latham.
Yes.
Darren Brock.
Yes.
I would like to make one comment to the council that Mary Mason has kept her records right up to date with the retention schedule, and she does not have file cabinets retaining old records. Next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the mayor and the city clerk to execute an agreement modifying the water sewer service boundaries between the city of Lowell and Rogers, Arkansas. Michael?
Did we get the maps on this and understand?
May I ask a question, Mayor?
Yes.
Michael, is this the one that Buzz Boyer has shepherded through the two cities?
Yeah.
For the man property we've been calling?
No.
This is a different one.
This is a different one.
A new one.
Yes, a new one.
New and different.
New and different. I think we voted on that one maybe when you were gone.
It's been complete. I saw it today in Rogers. It's been complete. It's about to be filed.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know this one this one was voted on the same meeting as the man's, the same Springdale water. So they were on the same timetable. But since these people had a couple of different things on the agenda tonight, we saved it for tonight, so they would only have to come once. So.
Very well. May I ask further, Mayor?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but just one more question. Mike, does this signal, do you think, some kind of a change in whether it be philosophy or attitude between these cities, that perhaps we could move all that property that needs to go to the Rogers boundary in one fell swoop?
Absolutely.
I'll answer that question. Tony and I had a meeting with Renee Langston and Rick Pulverini last Friday at 2:30. We went down to explain some of the things the city's doing, and the subject came up of switching sewer land from Springdale to Rogers. Renee Langston volunteered that he would like to handle these switches more at a time rather than individuals. And I said, does that mean that we need to get like the the northwest part of Lowell and any other areas that will go to Rogers ready to go? And he said, yes, so we will not oppose it. So we do. They're willing to switch anything we bring to them.
Well, congratulations, Mayor, because that's a pretty tremendous development, for that area. So I'm just wondering if this is a new one. That's great news.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions on this?
I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we approve the resolution.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Marty.
Marty Latham,
Yes.
Darren Brock,
Yes.
Paula Allred,
Yes.
Jerry Foley,
Yes.
Eric Shine,
Yes.
Kamala Lamons,
Yes.
Keith Williams,
Yes.
Carol Harmon.
Yes.
This will be resolution number 07-13.
I'm going to stay up here if it pleases the council to go for the next one.
Next item on the agenda is an ordinance amending the City of Lowell Code of Ordinances, Section 8-102, by rezoning certain lands from residential RA to retail office RO.
Did everyone get the supplements for today? Basically, when we had first written the ordinance, we had included, we were dealing with about 2 or 3 different things on this property. So we had taken the wrong legal description as for the right land, but it was doing the whole 27 acres, and they only wanted to do the 5.8. So that's what we changed it, and I gave you a new map. It's the same area, and I can assure you that for the public hearing, everyone was notified by certified mail 15 days in advance by ordinance. So there were no objections, and the Planning Commission passed it unanimously last night. Well, I say that there were 2 members missing. So,
Mike, what is a fast lane? Is that a bowling alley, or is
it's a sports complex. Well, that was the closest classification we could find in our uses. That's why they're going for an RO. It's going to be a bowling alley. They're going to have laser tag. They're going to have bumper cars. It's really going to be a fantastic thing for us. It's a 45,000 square foot building. So
I know we're just discussing the rezone, but could we remember, I guess, to have cut off lighting fixtures in the parking lot on this because of the residents that are just to the south of this?
yeah, and that is something we've gone through the tech review, and that was a concern. There's actually going to be a driveway that goes all the way around back. Screening was something that was brought up because of those residents. So that's on our radar.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading by title only.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that we place this ordinance on third and final reading, suspend the rules. And,
I'd like to second.
Roll call.
Paula Allred,
Yes.
Carol Harmon,
Yes.
Keith Williams,
yes.
Jerry Foley,
Yes.
Kamala Lamons,
Yes.
Eric Shine,
Yes.
Darren Brock,
Yes.
Marty Latham.
Yes.
An ordinance amending the City of Lowell Code of Ordinances, Section 8-102, by rezoning certain lands from residential RA to retail office RO. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Kamala Lamons,
Yes.
Darren Brock,
Yes.
Jerry Foley,
Yes.
Keith Williams,
Yes.
Eric Shine,
Yes.
Marty Latham,
Yes.
Carol Harmon,
Yes.
Paula Allred.
Yes.
This will be ordinance number 802.
Next item on the agenda is approval of appointment of Tony Davis and Sean Ingram to the Utilities Committee.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to approve the appointments.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Jerry Foley,
Yes.
Darren Brock,
Yes.
Paula Allred,
Yes.
Keith Williams,
Yes.
Eric Shine,
Yes.
Marty Latham,
Yes.
Carol Harmon,
Yes.
Pamela Lamons.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of appointments of Tony Davis, Sean Ingram, and John Ratsky to the Streets and Sidewalk Committee. I'm sorry, John's name doesn't show on your copy. I forgot it.
Who was that?
John Ratsky. I'll entertain a motion to approve the appointments.
I'd like to approve the appointments.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Eric Shine,
Yes.
Carol Harmon,
Yes.
Marty Latham,
Yes.
Keith Williams,
Yes.
Paula Allred,
Yes.
Darren Brock,
Yes.
Pamela Lamons,
Yes.
Jerry Foley.
Yes.
Does anyone want to set any committee meetings tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Carol?
We have scheduled a Utilities Committee meeting for August the 30th. That's on Thursday, and the time is flexible, either 5:30 or 6 o'clock at City Hall.
Which time?
5:30.
5:30. Any others? Does the ordinance committee want to meet and discuss their issues?
I
We have one on the table. There's also a comment of whether there should be an ordinance committee.
Well, actually, I think the confusion, well, in the past, when the ordinance committee was given a task to review an ordinance, usually they received direction at the very beginning from the city council as far as what their job and their task was. And I think right now that's what we're wanting. If the ordinance committee is going to meet, we would really like the city council to say, hey, this is what we want you to look at. This is the ordinance that we want you to look at, or an issue to send to us. And I think before we need to meet, I think the council needs to really, I guess, push that on us, just to give us some guidance. So I don't think we need to set an ordinance committee meeting unless this council really needs us to. We can discuss that at the next meeting.
Okay.
If there's an issue.
Next item on the agenda is adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
If no objections, the meeting is adjourned.